They look the same. They smell the same. I'm not going to taste them. Made by the same company, same PCB basically. A few little minor differences. You figure they would act the same? Not so much. Okay, to show you real quick, this GT1030 has DDR5 memory on it. Now, you really can't tell that from being that far away or not having a real close-up, look at it. But it does look almost identical to the one with DDR4 memory. There's a couple of differences, mainly in the place where the capacitors are put. You can see little subtle differences. This is the DDR5, this one is the 4, and even the packaging looks very much the same. Let me put these up here. Right down to the 800 number that is on the box. So both of these even came from the same distributor. And obviously they both came from Gigabyte. They're almost exactly the same. This one says DDR4. This one does not say. It just says it's it just says it's 2 gigs of onboard memory. So it's very, very difficult to tell. And when you go to look at descriptions on Amazon, it's even harder to tell. Amazon, Newegg, or whatever, you have to start trying to read the description, because the model number itself, there's a subtle little difference. It'll say like D2G or something like that to signify that it's DDR5 or DDR4. So if it says D5 2G or D4 2G, it will tell you it's DDR5 or DDR4. It's very, it's a little bit misleading at first. And at first when I did this, I went to go order one and I thought, oh, it's DDR5. Then I remembered, oh no, they make these with DDR4 as well. And then I thought, you know what? Why not I just order one of both? And we'll go ahead and prove why you shouldn't get the DDR4 version of this card. They look the same, they smell the same, they probably taste the same. I don't know, they don't act the same. And before we get down and into it, folks, if you haven't already, do me a favor and click that red button down there to subscribe. I'm really trying to push for 500 by the end of the year so I can get on some of these affiliate programs. There's a lot of stuff that I end up buying from Newegg or Amazon or whoever to try to do these videos. And it'd be nice if I leave links and you guys are able to buy some of this stuff. If you guys get the same price, or when it goes on sale, I mean, that's all the better, but I get a little bit of a commission or a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a kickback or whatever, if I can lead you guys to a product that you end up buying. So it works for me, works for you, works for everybody. But in order to do that, I have to have at least 500 subs, and I'm getting there, but I really would love to get there by the end of the year. So if you guys don't mind, click on that red button for me. We're gonna go ahead and start off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We always do the same 5, and it's just because it takes a mix of AAA type titles and we mix it with an esports title as well to see how well these CPUs, GPUs, or what have you will do, and we did no different here. We went ahead and tested it in the HP pre-built that had the 4600G, so I'm also going to list that. So you'll see the DDR4 will be in green, the DDR5 will be in blue, and stuck in between them will be the 4600G, just as a reference. It's not comparing the two of them. I guess it sort of is comparing, but we already did that in the last video. So we'll go ahead and we're just kind of giving a reference between the DDR4 and the DDR5. Starting out with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and immediately you can see that we've already started hitting on about 60% of the performance. This is not a typo. This is dead serious. 13 at 1080p, 17 at 900p, and 22 at 720p. This is not even playable. Whereas you get a little bit better, you can at least get 38 frames per second out of the 720p from DDR5, and you can even play it you can even play it at 900p. But the DDR4, that is right out. There's no sense in trying to play this, and that's just one example of why we're not we don't look favorably on that DDR4 version of this card. In Borderlands 3, we take it, and again, we're looking at the same type of thing. We're looking at 16.81, 21.68, and 28.5. It's not even playable at 720p. Where at least at 900p on the DDR5 version, we can play it, and it's not a horrible experience at 720p. Yes, the resolution is lower. That means it's not going to be as detailed, but you will have a more comfortable gaming experience. Whereas with the DDR4 version, there's no way. Dirt 5, we run into the same anomaly we ran into before. As you can see, the 4600G outdoes both of these, and then there's just something about this GT1030. I don't know if it's the gigabyte version of this card or what the deal is, but Dirt 5 does not like these cards. We went from playing at 12.7 frames per second at the DDR4 at 1080p to a maximum on the DDR5 of 720p of almost 33 frames per second. The 33 frames per second is playable, and it's not bad, and it's a fairly smooth experience. I'll hand it to it that way, but it is just, I mean, we're talking just barely. And meanwhile, as you can see, the 4600G just outperforms it. You're better off keeping the integrated graphics in a thing like the HP pre-built that we're looking at. Far Cry 5, the same type of thing. We're looking at, you know, about 60% of the performance. Once again, 13, 18, and 25 frames per second, as opposed to getting them, you know, 47 frames per second on the DDR5 version. So you're talking almost twice as many frames per second in the DDR5 version as the DDR4. That is significant because both of them have 2 gig of memory. Both of them have the same amount. It's just a different speed or the different type of memory, and it kneecaps that card so heavily that it makes it completely unplayable. And finally, CSGO. Now, Counter-Strike Global Offensive will pretty much play on a paperclip with duct tape and a rubber band. It will play on most anything, any potato, anytime, anywhere, and at least you can get it down to, you know, if nothing else, put it down at 720p and be able to play it that way. It's a representative of our esports titles, and it's going to be about what you would be looking at if you're playing some of these other ones out there like Valorant or what have you. Except for that DDR4 is just, I mean, I ran it at 1080p. I try to always run CSGO at 1080p unless I'm showing you guys benchmarks across this 1080, 720, and 900p or something like that. But when I ran it at 1080p, we're getting roughly half of what we did. And again, we got 93 frames per second on the DDR5 version and 44 frames per second on the DDR4 version. I mean, it's just, yes, it's playable. No, it's not enjoyable, and there are some hiccups, and it stutters, and it's just, if you're trying to play this competitively at 44 frames per second, it's pretty much a no-go. So with that being said, those are just, I mean, it's a little bit less expensive right now. I believe I paid like $90, which is way overpriced, and I'm not leaving links to either one of them because it's entirely too much money to be paying for either one of these cards. But I believe I paid $90 for the DDR4 version, and I paid like 130 something or almost 140 for the DDR5 version. Yes, again, that's too much. These cards ought to be in the $50 to $60 range, and the DDR5 version should only be about $15 more than the DDR4 version. However, you have to be careful because that DDR4 version is the one they're trying to slip in there kind of quietly and just get everybody to buy that. And that's the one you'll see a whole lot more often when you're looking at listings for this card. The graphics market is really, really tight. It doesn't look like it's going to ease up anytime soon, and there's just no hope for that, except for just give it time. And the people that will, whether they're mining or whether it's a chip shortage problem or whether it's everybody finally gets a graphics card or whatever the deal is, maybe some of that will start to ease off. But in the meantime, be very, very careful when you're looking at cards like this, and don't get yourself into a situation where you're thinking you're getting a really solid video card and you're ending up with a GT1030 that has DDR4 instead of 5. It's really, I can see where it's an easy mistake to make, and it might be a pretty costly one, and it's not going to make for a playable or enjoyable playing experience when you're trying to play games. So that's pretty much it. My whole goal today was just to go ahead and show that DDR4 against that DDR5 and be able to put my hands on and actually show some reasons why. I've mentioned before, and other reviewers have mentioned why it's a bad idea to get that instead of the DDR5 version. We've given you some proof with two basically identical cards except for the memory. They come from the same company, the same distributor, the same everything, same model, same low profile. Everything is pretty much identical except for the type of memory that is on the card, and it makes a huge difference. So if you liked the video, folks, or you found it helpful, go ahead and throw a like on it. I'd appreciate that. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you disliked it, that's fine. Go ahead and downvote it, but let me know why so I can do better next time. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'm really trying hard to make it where I can get to those affiliate programs. And don't be afraid to look me up on the other socials, Twitter and all that stuff, and even Twitch. I haven't streamed on Twitch in a while. I want to get back to it, but I haven't done it in a while. Maybe I just need some motivation. Who knows? But anyway, I just wanted to get on here. I wanted to show you guys that. And now I'm going to go ahead and break that DDR5 version down so I can put it back in the Dell Optiplex, and we're going to see if we can't overclock that, see if we can't get a little bit more out of it than we were getting. These are stock speeds and stock everything. I didn't touch anything, didn't overclock anything. This is straight up out of the box. That's what you got. So we're going to put it in that other one and see if it does any better. So until next time, folks, that's all I got, and I'll see you later.